Just as the embodied soul continuously passes from childhood to youth to old age, similarly at the time of death, the soul passes into another body. The wise are not deluded by this. This thought is not very comforting. Going from youth to old age, there is a string of memories that make us remember that we are the same person. Even though that past is inaccessible, it is still recollectible. Same can't be said about past lives. Our physical existence began at birth, so we can't have memories of what happened before, if anything happened at all. If you try to remember your past life and remember it, what you're doing is forcing your brain to turn your imagination into memories. That is, you're turning your fictional stories into history. I understand the reason why we don't remember past lives, if it is possible. What if you were a billionaire in your past life, but now you are a middle class man? The depression itself will kill you. I wrote a story of a religious old man who dedicated his life to save his suicidal son only because in his previous life he failed to do exactly that. That kind of a past life baggage will prevent you from making the most out of your present life. That's why every life is a fresh start. In this verse, reincarnation is spoken about as a given statement, something accepted as fact. But how can one prove that reincarnation is possible? Or, more important question, how and why would someone come to a conclusion that there is something called reincarnation? Let's look at the situation one at a time, starting from the latter situation. Why would anyone come up with a concept like reincarnation? Many centuries ago, there was a woman, a little girl who was brought up by her father because she didn't have a mother. Her father was everything to her. He protected her, he taught her, he brought her up, made her competent enough to take care of herself. Even when he was dying, he ensured that there would be someone to take care of her after him. Only then he took his final breath. This woman lost her father, but she married a very nice man. They lived happily. They had a son. This woman brought up her son with the same care and dedication as her father did for her. Decades went by and this woman became old. Her husband died many years ago and she too was on her way out of this life. But during her final years, when she was unable to take care of herself, her son took care of her. In those days, she saw a reflection of her father in her son. Those two were a lot alike, not just in the personality, behavior, or mannerisms, but also in their appearance. This is possible considering that the genetic information that forms our identity was passed on from the father to the daughter and from the daughter to the son. This is purely scientific. But for this naive old woman, for her it was her father who came back again in his new reincarnation to take care of her again. This is just one instance, but as I said, it's purely scientific. So it is not unnatural to consider that the idea of reincarnation might catch on and be popular among people. Okay, but from this approach, it might seem that the reincarnation concept is just a delusion, a misunderstanding, or blind faith. How can reincarnation possibly be real? Alright, let's consider the same story but from a totally different perspective. Consider a god-like race. These alien beings, who are basically immortal gods, create an artificial world for them to witness different stories or even have unique experiences firsthand. How do they do that? Well, they create a solar system and then populate a planet with complex, intelligent life. Then they go to sleep in small chambers that allow their consciousness to be transferred into a different body momentarily. This way, these advanced alien gods go to sleep, take birth as mortal human baby, live a life, and when they die, their consciousness returns to their immortal body, waking up to their real reality. In this context, the father is an alien god in a human form, taking care of his daughter. He lives a life. Unfortunately, due to some disease, his life is cut short. But before dying, he ensures that there is someone to take care of her after his death. After death, this alien being wakes up, but he keeps on watching over his beloved daughter to ensure that she lives a good life. Unfortunately, after a few years, the man she married also falls sick and he has very little time to live. Now, this alien being who cares for his that life daughter does not trust anyone to take care of her, or she being capable of taking care of herself. So he goes back into his sleeping chamber and takes birth again, this time as the son of his daughter. This boy is clueless why he was born, but instinctively he cares for his mother. So when she becomes old, he naturally takes care of her. Now, knowing the full picture, you can tell with assurance that for this woman, the characters of the father and her son were played by the same individual. That is reincarnation. Okay, I don't know if this applies to real world, but if it does apply to real world, how can one figure out that reincarnation is possible? Our personality is defined by many things. Our personal experience while we live, our internal biology designed by our genetic code, and there must be something, that essence, that instinct, that born talent or skill that comes from an unknown source. That could be the identity of the soul, or in this case, that advanced alien being's personality that gets influenced on the character this person plays. That is the consistent soul personality. If it is true, perhaps we can employ a soul tracker system. How that would work is we will have to keep a record of every person's personality from birth to death. Now, if the soul personality stays consistent, for a being, their personality during their death of their previous life should match their personality at birth during their next life. So, if someone has an inborn talent like a math genius or a sports master, without practice or family history of mastering that ability, then it could be the influence of the third aspect of your personality, your soul. If we perfect this system and keep track of every individual that was born around the world, well, we might actually find out who is the incarnation of whom. A primitive, imperfect form of this system is called astrology. But that's a discussion for some other time. Before ending this video, I want to point out two asterisks to this soul tracker system. 1. Provided that life exists only on one planet and that souls cannot just go visit different planets and live different lives. And 2, time is linear. It's not like you were born first as yourself and then in your next life you were born as your great 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 grandfather. If these two conditions aren't met, even if all these hypotheticals are true and are refined, finding your reincarnation will not be possible. Subscribe.